So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Verity, one of the money mentors at Women's Wealth, and I'm joined here by Selina, who is also a money mentor and an ambassador for the charity Surviving Economic Abuse. And Finance on Friday, what you're part of today, is a Women's Wealth broadcast where we spend half an hour talking about some of the latest information and topics that matter to our members. So, as I said, feel free to contribute today. You can ask questions in the chat. I'm going to be monitoring that throughout. We do have a couple of questions that have been sent in advance by people who can't make the live. So we'll touch on those as well if we have time. And if you feel you can or want to come off the mic and actually speak to us when we ask about questions, then you're more than welcome to do that. However, we do understand that this is a very sensitive topic, and so we want you to put your well-being first. So whatever you feel is best for you to do, so you feel you're in a safe space, then please do that for you, okay? So it's important to say that we can't offer bespoke financial advice today because there's just not enough time to get to know enough about you to be able to do that. So if you do ask questions, try and keep them general, and we'll get around to as many as we can, okay? So I want to start by explaining what economic abuse is. So we get a good foundation before I then pass you on to Selina, who's going to go into a bit more detail. So economic abuse is a form of domestic abuse, and it was legally recognised in the Domestic Abuse Act in 2021 in the UK. Oh, just going to mute. Sorry about that. Okay, so, and it often occurs in the context of intimate partner violence, and it involves the control of a partner or ex-partner's money and finances, as well as the things that money can buy. 1 in 7 women in the UK have experienced economic abuse by a current or former partner. Economic abuse can include exerting control over income, spending, bank accounts, bills and borrowing. It can also include controlling access to and use of things like transport and technology, which allows us to stay connected and also to work, as well as property and daily essentials like food and clothing. And it can also include destroying items and refusing to contribute to household bills. It's also important to say here that this isn't limited to heterosexual romantic couples. It can also happen in LGBT plus relationships, between a parent and child, between siblings, and even between close friendships. So I'm now going to pass you over to Selina, who's going to show you a short video. And then she's going to talk about how to spot economic abuse, the potential outcomes, and what support is available. Selina.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining and listening. It's a really important topic. So I'm just going to share a short presentation where we can dive into more details. So just bear with me. So here we are. So it's a video by the charity Surviving Economic Abuse. So I have been an ambassador for the charity for the last, I believe it's about four years now. It's been quite some time, and they do amazing work and provide lots of useful resources for anyone who is experiencing economic abuse. But it's just a short video to discuss what it is, and we'll go into even more detail afterwards. So
clothing, transportation, and a place to live. This form of abuse is designed to limit someone's freedom. There are many different ways an abuser might control your economic resources. Some examples include controlling the use of property such as a mobile phone or car, preventing you from being in education or limiting your working hours, dictating what you can buy, making you ask for money or providing an allowance. He controlled what I wore, what I ate and drank, who I saw, my social media, my telephone, our bank accounts, my credit card. He controlled how much sleep I had. He made it near impossible for me to sustain a full-time job, yet he refused to work. If any of this sounds familiar, know that you are not alone. We have resources and more information on our website, survivingeconomicabuse.org.
So, economic abuse can be very difficult to identify. And the truth is, it can start off very slowly at first and build up over time. So, at first, behaviors can feel very protective, even caring. So, for example, encouraging you to give up work to focus on the children, or to manage finances on your behalf to take the burden off, or encouraging you to move, joint money. So it might be savings that you have, or it could be an inheritance into a shared joint family account before blocking access to money or restricting access to those joint accounts. And the truth is, many women have experienced, economic abuse for many years without realizing it. And it's also important to be aware that economic abuse can also be present alongside other forms of domestic abuse. So a person who is being abused in other ways may not realize that economic abuse is happening at the same time, especially when their priority is keeping themselves safe from harm. So economic abuse, again, can be very difficult to recognize. And I'm going to go through a list of some of the behaviors that may be a sign of economic abuse that you might be experiencing on this call today, or that people you may know may be experiencing. But I just wanted to stop there because I did play the video and just to check to see if there were any sort of comments or thoughts in the chat. Also, feel free if you feel okay to do so, kind of maybe to share any experiences that you have. I think the more that we talk about this topic, the more that we share about this topic, it can be really helpful for others who are listening today and joining this webinar, and also maybe who will listen to the playback. If you don't feel okay to come off mute and share yourself, you can put a comment in the chat and we can read that out for you.
Yeah, shall I ask one of the questions that we had sent in just while we're giving people a chance to think of question?
Yeah.
One of them was, how is economic abuse different from financial abuse? And my understanding was that financial abuse is really focusing on money and the misuse of it, whereas economic abuse is broader. It's what money can do as well. Is that right? Is that what you would say?
Yeah, I would say that that's absolutely correct. It's got a much wider kind of description and it covers much wider behaviors. So if we look at some of the kind of options on the slide here, it could be sabotaging things such as your income and actual access to money. So that can look like preventing you from being in education or employment. So pursuing those types of activities that will give the opportunity to increase, your earnings and income capacity, your earning capacity. It could be someone limiting your working hours. So it might be that you want to do more hours. Maybe you started off working part-time to fit around the children, and you now want to increase those hours, and that person not offering much support in that way. So again, limiting your opportunity to go out and work. It could be actually physically taking money. So again, the idea of you go to work, you get your paycheck, and it's just it's put into a joint bank account, which you don't necessarily have full control over. It could be refusing to let you claim benefits that will help put you in a better kind of a more stable financial position. It could be as simple as, taking children's savings or birthday money. And then also refusing to let you access bank accounts. So a bank account. So it's not just about the money, it's kind of what you can do with it, or behaviors that have an impact on, how you earn it there as well. So So that's just
Okay.
sabotaging your income. I don't know if there is any comments.
Yeah, we've had another question in the chat. I have a friend whose husband is very controlling of her movements and social life. Would it be wrong to presume he is controlling her finances as well? And how would we, as her friends, be able to help her?
I think, oh, sorry, what were you going to say,
No, no,
Verity?
it's a difficult one, isn't it? This because obviously it's very unique to the circumstance, and controlling movements and social life doesn't necessarily mean there could be economic abuse. But I think it's good to be aware that that is potentially there, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because as mentioned, economic abuse can be happening alongside other forms of abuse. So if it is controlling movements, that may move into the work territory, controlling, how someone works, how they make their money. So I do think it is definitely something to where there is an element of control. I do think it is something to maybe be kind of mindful of and be observant of. And in terms of how we can offer support, I think it's being there for your friend, being a kind of listening ear for your friend, sharing information as well. So if it is about, kind of coercive control, sharing information in quite a delicate way, because these conversations can be quite difficult to have, but also just being, being aware and being observant and just being there to support. I
Yeah,
think when we think about other forms of kind of domestic abuse and abuse, it can take time for someone to become aware that they are being abused or even want to admit that they are being abused to themselves, to others. But I think if you're just there as a friend to offer support, if they do ever disclose um, that abuse is happening,
yeah.
is key.
And we're going to cover that a little bit later on in the webinar. So maybe if we move back into the slides
Yeah,
and then continue to answer questions a little later on, if that sounds good.
yeah.
And then hopefully we'll cover some of the questions that people have as well.
Yep. So back to the slide. So it can be that they restrict how you use money and the things that you own. So it can be that they control when and how money is spent, dictate what you can buy, make you ask for money or provide an allowance, keep receipts. So you have to kind of report back what you are spending. So maybe getting you to keep a spending diary, making you justify every purchase made, control the use of your property, such as a mobile phone or a car. So maybe restricting how and when you can use the car, maybe getting rid of the car completely. Um, insist that all economic assets, e.g., savings and houses and things like that are in their name. And then also, keeping financial information a secret. Another thing that they can do is exploit your economic situation. So it could be stealing your money or property. It can be causing damage to your property, refusing to contribute to household costs. So spending money needed for household items and bills, and misusing money in joint bank accounts. And then also it could be insisting that all bills, credit cards, and loans, so essentially all debts, are kept in your name and that you make all the payments for them. And another thing that we do see, perpetrators do is, sometimes building up debt in your name, and that debt can be coerced. So it can be you're aware that the debt has been put in your name because there's some form of coercion there, or it could be done in secret behind your back. So, there are more than one way that, you can end up in debt by being in these types of kind of abusive situations.
Mm.
Um, so those are some of the signs. And I should say there are so much more. And it is a half an hour webinar, so we can't go into all of the details. Um, but it could be when it comes to sort of looking out for the people that we love who may be in this situation. It could be, a sign could be as kind of innocent as, we're now moving into the winter months. And it might be that that person, although they may be working, kind of earning money on paper, it looks like they're doing very well, but it might be that they're unable to, purchase a new winter coat. So they may be walking around in winter in a thin summer jacket because they're not able to, they're unable to, um, control their money and purchase, what they need. And it could be in controlling and really restricting the shopping budget to the point where you have to really restrict back and may not be able to buy the supplies that you need, which then has a knock-on effect, if you're unable to kind of financially take care of yourself, because that's being restricted, it can have a knock-on impact to the things that you're able to go out and do. So we can't provide a huge exhaustive list of examples, but it's just really important to just think about some examples and even the small ways that this can be happening. And next one is to talk about the impact, because the impact of economic abuse can be devastating and it can have lifelong consequences due to being financially restricted. And the perpetrator, denying access to money, preventing a victim from working, sabotaging employment or welfare benefits, denying access to joint bank accounts, or coercing, someone into debt can negatively impact, a victim's working and also financial life. And this type of abuse, it's designed to create economic instability and or make a partner economically dependent, which limits their freedom. Because without access to money and the things that money can buy, it can be very difficult to leave an abuser and access safety. So someone experiencing this type of abuse can become trapped in a relationship with an abuser, and unable to remove themselves from abuser's control, and they may be at risk of further harm. So, we have to think about it. We have to realize that, economic safety underpins, can sometimes underpin physical safety. And also the long-term impact is that, it can make it very difficult for someone to rebuild their lives. It can cause many challenges because many victim survivors will leave with nothing, have no money for even essentials, and having to start from scratch, with it might be large debts, it might be a poor credit rating. So it can impact long-term economic stability. Being unable to save and provide that economic safety and security for yourself. As financial advisors and planners and money mentors, one of the things that we do with our clients and the first sort of conversations that we have is about having an emergency fund. But again, if you are experiencing economic abuse, your money is being used to pay for everything. Debts have been built up in your name, so you're having to focus on paying down debt. It's really difficult to take that first kind of crucial financial planning step that we talk about a lot, which is, building up a bit of an emergency fund to deal with, an emergency situation. So it can be really difficult when you're in the situation to keep yourself financially safe and stable. And then also when you exit the situation as well, you may still be dealing with the financial consequences.
Mm. And also where to keep that emergency fund if your partner is controlling everything. There's nowhere it's really safe. So that it's multi-layered with that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to move on next to how you can help someone who is a victim, um, and also how to help yourself as well. It's also important to recognize that, to the earlier question about, identifying that, someone who may be experiencing abuse, um, it may be difficult for a person to kind of see that they are being abused in that way, admit that they are also, and a lot of the times people can be unaware that they are experiencing economic abuse, and also that economic abuse is actually a crime. And economic abuse as a crime was actually quite recently added, legally, that it's a crime. So it's not always been, classed as a crime. But thanks to the work of Surviving Economic Abuse, they've managed to, and other charities, they've managed to get it on the books to say that it is actually a crime. Someone who has entered into shared financial arrangements may not realize that a perpetrator is using the arrangement to control, dictate, or misuse how money is spent. And economic abuse can affect, a range of socioeconomic backgrounds. So again, a victim survivor may appear stable, but they may not have access to control of all their finances. Some of the things that you can do to support would be, be there to listen. It may take a while for someone to realize economic abuse is happening and for them to feel safe enough to disclose this information to you. Ask for help. So I would suggest that you be a listening ear. So if you do have concerns, be there. You may want to share information with somebody about economic abuse, and we will be sharing a handout with you today. And for those who have registered but maybe who haven't been able to join, we will be sharing some information. I would suggest visiting the Surviving Economic Abuse website for more specialist support. So if you believe that you are experiencing economic abuse yourself right now, do visit the website. You can report economic abuse to your bank if it is safe to do so. And Surviving Economic Abuse have developed a banking support directory, which provides details of the support available from your bank itself. So an example of that would be, HSBC UK. They can provide support with receiving a new bank card, changing PINs and passwords, changing your correspondence address, changing who can access your account, managing joint accounts, removing secondary card holders from credit cards, and then also managing debts. And HSBC UK branches offer something called a safe space, and it's for people who are experiencing domestic abuse to make it easier for you to access support. Another thing I would do is keep a record of economic abuse incidences if it is safe to do so. So if you have experienced economic abuse or are experiencing something called post-separation abuse, do keep a record because, like we've mentioned, it is an actual offence. And, an abuser can be taken to court for controlling or coercive behaviour. If it is safe to do so, continue to maintain some form of financial independence from your partner. So again, some banks will allow you to create a new account without providing your current address if it isn't safe. You can speak to a financial advisor who will be able to identify any risks to your financial well-being. And we have to look out for, vulnerable clients. So when we do our assessment and speak to you for the very first time, we do, look for any vulnerabilities. And we're here to support. I think sometimes just being able to have a conversation and talk to someone can be really useful. And then also get support. So on this page, again, I just wanted to highlight, some of the resources from the Surviving Economic Abuse website. They've got a page on there called I Need Help. And you can see that there is a kind of exit button on the website. So if you need to come off the page really quickly, you can. And then it goes into different parts of, our financial lives. So whether it's banking, whether it's dealing with debt, whether it's dealing with shared housing, they've got a de-linking from an abuser list. So things that you can think about, your banking, your housing. They've got really useful information there for you. And again, how we can help is we can be here to have a conversation and listen to you to see if we can, help you identify any vulnerabilities. So I'm going to hand back over to Verity now. And I don't know if you've got any questions or comments in the chat as well.
Yeah, so thank you, Selina. I think it's really interesting highlighting all the tiny things that I don't think I would have really thought of that were signs of economic abuse. And I think, like we said at the beginning, it's really about building that awareness, not only to help people who are already in the situation, but to try and prevent, I think, other women ending up in that situation as well. So, I've shared the website in the chat, so people have that. And also we've got our booklet that we've created around economic abuse in the chat as well. I'm aware we've only got a couple of minutes left. We did have another question in the chat, Selina, which was, can it also be being put under significant pressure to provide money for the use of them and others? If you don't mind answering that one.
I mean, I would say absolutely yes. It can be. That can be a form of kind of economic abuse. Um, I think it's anything that sort of destabilizes your own financial well-being, um, you know, takes away kind of choices and freedom from you. So I think yes, it can be. Um, if you're not making that decision of your own kind of free will and volition, if you're unable to say no, this is going to put me in a very difficult tight hole, then it can uh, go into the realm of being financially abused. So I do think it's that kind of pressure, and your money is almost not your own. Um, it may be a bit of a sign, and like I said earlier, it kind of can start off quite innocuous and quite, small little behaviors. But ultimately, if you are always under pressure to provide for, maybe not for yourself and your immediate family, but for extended family, um, and in a way that puts you at a significant financial disadvantage, puts you in financial debt, puts you in, and there's a lot of pressure to do it. Like you don't have, you're unable to say no. Then yeah, it can um, be a red flag
Yeah,
for
and I
child
think
abuse.
something that was super interesting to really understand was that it's not just about current partners, it's also about ex-partners. So women who are separated, going through divorce.
Yeah,
And I'm sure that resonates with a lot of women that they're now finding that they're in this situation where there's a lot of control and they're trying to
absolutely.
navigate through a very emotional transitional period of their lives with this as another layer added. So I think it's also really important as well to recognize that, like we've discussed today. I'm aware we've reached time, so I am gonna start wrapping up, and if people need to leave, that's absolutely fine. But I do want to ask if there's any more questions before I do. If anyone wants to come off the mic and ask, that's absolutely fine. Or if you want to pop it in the chat, that's fine. So I'll just give. We will share the recording. Yep, that will be sent, no problem. So that's absolutely fine. You will get the recording. I'm going to just share with you a challenge. Surviving Economic Abuse have just released this. And it's really a way to help people understand this topic a bit more and become sort of advocates for it with themselves and with friends and family. So I'm going to just pop that in the chat so you can have a look at that challenge, okay? We've just had a comment saying family courts rarely respond well to coercive control, so will be equally uniformed about economic abuse. So yeah, I think, we had a divorce webinar last month, didn't we? Where a legal expert came in and was speaking to one of our money mentors, Sifra, and there was quite a bit of a crossover, I would say, with some of the topics that was being spoke about. And we do have a free part of our membership called Enable, and what that does is it allows you to sort of access all our past webinars, so you could have a look at that divorce one. Maybe some questions will be answered in that, and there's also other resources. So if you find that you or a friend is in this position, and maybe you're in a position where you can't change things right now, but you can do something about empowering yourself with knowledge of money and finance, so you've got that ready when you're able to step out of this situation, then we have lots of resources in there to help you understand all the different elements of finance that as women we're not as well versed on normally, and we get a bit nervous around. So that's why we do that. That's why we have that there. And if you do feel that you need one-to-one, then we also offer that that service as well, as female money mentors and financial planners. So thank you for joining us today. I know it's a sensitive topic. I appreciate the questions, and thank you to everyone watching the replay. Like I said, you've got some links in the chat to the charity Surviving Economic Abuse. If you just Google it, you'll find it as well, and you will get the booklet that gives you more detail about that. And yeah, I just want to let you know that we have a couple of other things coming up next year that may be of interest to you and maybe support you as a woman trying to empower herself with finances. So we don't do one of these sessions in December because everyone's very busy. So we are doing a How to Detox Your Finances on the 30th of January at the same time. So you can join that if that's something that you are interested in. We've also got some panels coming up in the new year where we invite experts on, so we can have rounded conversations about different topics, and they're going to cover but aren't limited to women in the LGBT plus community. I'm going to be leading that one. We've got some around divorce because that was a very popular topic, so we want to delve a bit deeper into that, and also sudden wealth, so inheritance, things like that. And that also, I think, can tie in with this topic. So everything is connected in that sense. So if there are no more questions, really thank you for joining us today. And yeah, please use the resources that we've shared with you. And I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.